Hello all and welcome to the On-Premise IT Roundtable podcast, the only show that usually dares to be both on topic and on location. We're doing special quarantine editions here, reaching out to our wonderful communities on premises, wherever they happen to be, so we're still keeping with the spirit of the show. And each time we meet, we bring together IT luminaries, from their homes in this case, to discuss a single concept. In this iteration, we'll be discussing if COVID-19 is a security disaster. We've talked about a little bit of doing IT support in a previous episode, and I think the security angle on this is really important. We'll get on to all of that in just one second. I am, of course, your moderator, Rich Straffolino, but let's go around the round table, virtually as it may be, and meet our panelists for today.
Hi, I'm Zoe, and you can find me on Twitter at RoseSecOps. That's RoseSecOps.
Hi, everybody. Trisha Howard. You can find me on Twitter at Trisha Kicks Sass. That's TRICIAKICKS
And I'm Justin Warren. You can find me on Twitter as at JP Warren, or our website is pivot9.com.
Excellent, excellent. So let's jump right into it. The idea that COVID-19, it certainly has impacted all areas, I think, of millions and millions, if not billions of people's lives at this point. What we want to talk about specifically here is not just in general the business aspect of it, but the specific security implications. So I guess we'll start the conversation with, does COVID-19 have the potential to be a security disaster? And maybe where does the threat surface expand the most, given that everyone is, working from home? There is maybe perhaps more limits to where we can do IT support or how quickly we can do that. We're extending networks. Where does, the security problems come in? Zoe, can you start us off here?
Yeah, I mean, I've got two sides to it. So I'm choosing the absolutely brilliant consultancy answer of it depends. I know that's the worst, but I'm looking at it from the point of view of working with global teams. So I've worked with teams all over the world. I mean, I'm currently sat in Ireland, but that doesn't mean my clients are all in Ireland. And even if they are, I can't obviously move to them right now. But I'm used to always having that consideration of, okay, well, what happens if you're not available? Looking at working with people in other countries, they have a tech issue and they're in a different time zone. So what happens if your help desk isn't there, or isn't available? So I look at things like, self-password resets. Those, regardless of where you are or when you are, that's going to work, and that does take prior planning. And so I want to say that if a company did invest in business continuity, did invest in remote working, and I'm not saying that would make it perfect, mind you, but they would have already considered these things. And like, for example, the company I work at, our business continuity plan involved us working from home. So we all have laptops, we all have provided mobile phones. So I've got my personal, I've got my company, I've got my personal laptop, I've got my company laptop, and I don't mix them. So the privacy side is already considered. The security side, I'm working remotely securely because we already considered that. It wasn't perfect, mind you. There still were some bumps along the way we access stuff, all of that, had to be considered. But it wasn't this massive, scary nightmare. Mind you, I do work for a smaller company. When it comes to very large enterprises, I do see the issue with training, kind of having people learn. Like, it's just like being a, sysadmin and going from physical hardware to the cloud. There's training. There is a change of perception and understanding of access, of, securing it. If you do it from the beginning, security and privacy by design and by default, you're already safer off. So I feel like it's a bit lazy to blame COVID, saying, no, this whole issue is all because of this. Because at the end of the day, that's how the world works. Like, COVID is the latest, but it's not the only thing that's happened. I've had to work from home before. I mean, people just have to understand that the world doesn't work where people have to be in person. And I feel like it's a bit lazy saying that that's the problem. I don't know, is that a good enough answer?
No, that's great. You know, the idea that, you know, maybe this brings to light existing issues, you know, because it's like an order of, several orders of magnitude, maybe greater than anyone perhaps would have thought. But I definitely don't think
I agree with that. Yeah. But one thing that really stood out to me, and I felt almost like, because I was a sysadmin years and years ago, and I felt almost really guilty, is this lady, I think it was a lady, wrote on Twitter, oh, now everybody gets to see how a disabled person deals with going to conferences. And I felt so bad when I read that, because I love going to conferences. I love the in-person. I don't like the streaming as much because I need that interaction. But then I realized, well, actually, it doesn't matter what I like that, you know, it's kind of awful to be like, oh, this is the only thing we do. So we should have kind of planned for it. But then again, saying, yeah, should have done that is kind of a dick thing to say as well. Sorry.
Yeah, Trisha, I'm wondering what you take on our premise today.
Yeah, so I think disaster might be a really strong word. I do think that it is a problem. So I'm here in New York, and from my personal experience, we went from everything is fine to the world is burning within a matter of hours, pretty much the way that everything was going. And a lot of companies here in New York are financial, and a lot of them are very traditional in the way that they have their setups, their IT setups. You know, maybe 20% of their workforce is set up to work from home. Now, my company here, I come from a similar background as Zoe, as far as like size, and we're a consultancy and stuff. So I was set up, I was fine, but there were a lot of people who were not. And what's happening from my view, what I've seen is three things that would potentially make it a disaster. One, you have IT teams and security teams who are trying to do these projects that would normally take months, sometimes years, depending on how large your organization is, and doing them in a matter of days. So things are going to be missed. Workarounds are going to have to be found. It's just part of it, right? We're just trying to get everybody to be home and safe, which is the most important part of this whole thing. The other thing is, if you've ever talked to me before, you know that this was going to come up. Security awareness and the people who are sitting at home, who both have never worked from home before, and also the ones who are used to working from home and have a routine. Now, everybody is being affected by this. So you have the people who are being overly cautious about COVID. That's where we saw all of these fake maps that were showing up that were actually embedded with malware. So people are being overly cautious and actually making mistakes because of that. And then on the other side, you have the parents who have 3 kids trying to set them up for distance learning while they have an 8 a.m. conference call and haven't had their coffee yet, and are trying to get an email from their boss saying, you need to do this right now. You know what I'm saying? So people are less vigilant than they would normally sitting in the office. They also, if they are used to an office setup, you could walk over to somebody and be like, hey, I got this weird email. I got this, is this something I should do? Or walk over to, Amy in accounting. Hey, did you request this invoice? This isn't normally how we do it. So I think there is a potential for that there. The main thing is that we need to, I'm going to steal this from Dr. Mike, who I was watching for a long time, is to be alert, not anxious, right? I think the panic is actually the potential for the security concern here, because people will stop paying attention and stop doing the things that they have been trained to do, if they've been trained to do it, which is a whole other rant. But for the ones who would normally not click on that phishing email and give up their credentials, or not put these social engineering answers on social media, please stop. Please stop. Please. Oh my. I put a joke tweet out yesterday, and some of the responses were legitimate, and I had to actually DM them and say, please delete this. This was a joke. I said, your quarantine name is the name of your first pet, your mother's maiden name, and of where you went to high school. And people actually responded, because people are not thinking about it, right? A lot of them were jokes, but there were a couple that were legitimate. So these kinds of things might seem kind of minuscule when you parse them out, but when you put them all together, then that's where we have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin?
Yeah, I echo that. I'll probably follow on from what Trisha was saying, the humans are the hard part. Technology is easy. Humans are hard. So it's partly the humans having to adapt in a hurry to doing things that they're not used to. So we're not working from home. We're trying to work while we're at home because we have to stay here during a global pandemic. And as Trisha said, we're juggling 9 different things. And people who haven't homeschooled have to now try to homeschool their children while working full time, or still continuing to travel. For those of for there's a lot of people who can't actually work from home. Their job means going out into the world. So for them, it's coupled with a whole bunch of actual real life-threatening, scary stuff going on. But that's right now when you've got that initial spike of adrenaline and energy that comes from dealing with a crisis. That's going to go away. And this whole thing that we're going through, this is not going to be over in weeks or a couple of months. This is many, many months. So fatigue is going to start to kick in. And I think that's probably, there's dangers at each one of these inflection points. So there is no one thing. It's multi-layered. But I think the thing that's concerning me is the fatigue, where people will they'll get sloppy because they're tired. They've been trying to do this new thing that they're not used to and having to adapt really quickly and sucking at it. And they're going to start to burn out. And then we're going to start to see what happens when humans get tired and can't do the things that, like the technology, once it's set up, that'll run quite happily for months on end. It's when the humans get tired, they'll start making mistakes, they'll start getting bored, they'll start doing things that they wouldn't have normally just because they don't want to be stuck in their house anymore, and they'll start to take risks that they might not necessarily have taken otherwise just because they're bored. So that's the kind of stuff I'd be looking for.
I would comment on 2 things there. I do agree with you 100%. The only thing that sticks out to me is the technology side. Is it works if it's been done properly, but when you're in a rush, a lot of the times it's not done properly. So I would say that is still quite a big risk, especially adapting when you've not invested prior to. So adapting quickly when maybe you're not as educated to know how to do it properly. Also, the fatigue part is a massive thing. I totally agree with you on that. The only comment that...
Yeah, that's a good point, Zoe, because a lot of this, as you're saying, the maintenance of stuff. So, once it's set up, it runs that way, all, continues to work. It's like, until it doesn't. And we all know that tech breaks. And now we don't have, like, the IT department just next door. So, like, I was talking with my EA earlier today. It's like, please don't break a computer. Because, like physically, because we'd have to order a new one, and I don't know how long that's going to take to, like, even just to ship parts out. So we're going to have that's another whole risk of, like, now we've got to go and do our work on the spare laptop that we last booted up 3 months ago, or 2 years ago, and that hasn't had any patches applied, or so there's all that sort of stuff's going to happen.
Well, one thing that I really, really appreciated was Michael Bezel's comment. He did a special on his podcast about Intel techniques, about privacy and security at home, and employers that, maybe they've sent you home to work, but they didn't provide you with a secondary internet connection, so you're using yours. They didn't provide you, and so it's like, it's not just the training, it's just the people, it's also the company, and their almost ethics. Like, whilst it's easier to just say, well, you have internet, so use yours, it's not really appropriate, because if you've not provided them, that's a breach of their privacy. You don't need to know their home IP address unless it's agreed on prior to, and as a non-technical user, maybe I don't know that, and I just use, and that's kind of unfair. So I think I'm pushing a lot of the blame on the company. If you've not noticed, I'm like,
as it should be.
But I think
I'm
it
there
should
with
be.
you. Management is they're the ones who should take the fall for most of this. Stuff don't have.
I'm not saying that they should have seen this ahead of time, mind you. I'm not saying, well, you should have planned for it. Because there are people that did plan for this. I was not one of them. Did not expect this to happen. But I did adapt, hopefully, and hopefully I've done things properly. But I also have a company that knows how to deal with people remote working. I also am more technical, so I know how to remote work, mostly, theoretically. And I feel like it's a bit unfair to be like, oh, well, you know, it's not that hard. You could do it. Watch this guide on how to, because some people don't learn well online. Like I like watching videos, but there's something to be said about physically having somebody else walk you through something, you know, and there's something else to be said about, you know, maybe I'm not comfortable doing a video call at home, you know, maybe you shouldn't require that. And that comment you made about people that have kids working from home as well, it's almost like this additional stress and maybe micromanaging because you're not used to people working remotely is going to add that fatigue much quicker. And I feel like that's my security concern is more around the people's mental health, because consider an insider threat. Now you don't have them in the office. If you've not set logging and monitoring up right away because you're just trying to get it all working, well, maybe you're missing things. And if somebody's really unhappy, especially if they're distanced from everyone else, it can be really easy to then become quite disgruntled. And I mean, this book I read last year on, it's called Lost Connections, by this author that talks about depression and loneliness and how society has become quite distant, and that's what, you know, causes it. In this like quarantine time, you're not only stressed, you're not only being asked to do things you don't feel like you're qualified to do, and you're distanced from your colleagues. I mean, talk about a great petri dish of insider threat growth.
Yeah, that was actually
true.
that was going to be my thing is kind of, you know, whenever we are post quarantine at some point in the future, is that like one of the things that I don't know, changes, but maybe sees more mass adoption is, you know, more a better understanding or better adoption of something like user access controls and stuff like that going forward. Consider, you know, because I mean, everyone's talking that,
so.
yeah, everyone's talking that, you know, nothing, you know, there's no going back to normal from here. Certainly people will go back into offices at some point, but, you know, maybe working from home becomes much more common. Coming out of this, do you see any other long-term security implications, I guess?
I would hope long-term that people start seeing how sexy logging and monitoring is. And like grouping that, not just saying like, oh, I'm logging this and that, but like centralizing it. And so Teams become the new sexy thing. That would make me so happy. And, you know, actually using machine learning and artificial intelligence to like create, you know, the baseline, and then being able to identify, I can't say this word, anomalous activities. Oh, I said it.
Well,
that would be my goal.
Trisha, anything that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I do hope that security awareness becomes more of a push, and true security awareness, right? There are a lot of companies that claim that they do security awareness, and what they do is they put a module out for somebody to click through, and that they don't actually care, and they don't actually continually test their people. There's a huge difference. Like I can throw up any sort of, here, don't click on this phishing email. Great, I won't do that. Sure, of course, Trisha, I won't. But then what happens whenever they do? So I think we should definitely have stronger and more personal approach to security awareness. I think that's because that's what people are going to react to. I also wanted to piggyback off of what Zoe said on the the insider threat. Now she talked about the insider threat from a specific point of, or what is the word that I'm looking for? Intentional point of view. Intentional, right? So she's talking about the intentional point, but a lot of the insider threat is not intentional. It's people who don't know that they're doing something wrong, or back to what she said as well with the management, like, get this done now. You need to have this meeting, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is a real scenario that happened to me a week or so ago. My internet went out in my house entirely, right? My cable was down, everything was down. It was a critical hardware failure within my box. What do I do now? I have a hotspot on my phone, so that's what I worked off of. And fortunately, I know better. I had the VPN running and just dealt with the fact that it took me 20 minutes to send an email. But if you have somebody who says, okay, their internet goes out and they have to use their hotspot for themselves and their 3 kids who can connect to their teachers and everything else, then start certain security protocols that were really great whenever you have everything working start to go by the wayside. So finding ways to have secure workarounds and making security awareness and your security program people-centric rather than technology-centric, I hope that comes out of this.
I'm a bit of a cynic about human nature. So one of my favorite quotes is that men do not learn very much from the lessons of history is one of the most important lessons that history has to teach. I'd like to believe that people will start to design systems with privacy and data security at their core, so that we don't actually like surveillance. I'm not a big fan of surveillance as a solution because watching people to catch them out when they make mistakes is kind of anathema. It doesn't work as a safety design feature. For example, clicking on links, that's what links are for. They're for clicking on. So when people click on links in email, it's like, well, we train them to do that. That's what links are for. So the system should be designed better so that you can't actually call these problems. And that's on us. That's not on the people who have to use these. We as an industry have done a terrible job of designing computer systems to be secure. So we need to do a better job on that. But we're already trying to work on that, and it's going to be slow going. I'd actually like for us to do a better job on that so that we don't have to surveil people, so that there isn't data that could leak. We just don't keep it. We don't store this stuff, or we don't provide people with access to this stuff if they don't need it. We don't create situations where we have to route people's connections to Pornhub through our corporate VPN because they happen to be working from home. These are design issues, and as much as I'd like to think that we might do a better job on that, I've been doing this for a little bit too long, I feel, and my confidence is not high.
Well, but kind of to close us out here, I think it's really encouraging to hear everybody here kind of taking that, regardless of how cynical we may be, that you really need to have this people-focused approach to this. And, that's kind of, we frame the premise of this, COVID-19 is a security disaster, certainly not to make light of it. I mean, I did want to illustrate that there are, potentially some major security issues coming out of this, but, certainly the most important thing is that everybody is staying healthy and staying safe and staying inside their homes at this time as well. And I just really appreciate echoing that sentiment and kind of keeping people top of mind and realizing that, as much as we want to follow security best practices, those weren't created with our current situation in mind, and we're all just trying to adapt. So thank you to each of you. Let's go around the table one more time. If people want to, let's maybe do some Twitter IDs. Zoe, if people want to follow you on Twitter, where can they find you?
Well, I've got 2. It depends on what you want to follow me for. One is my everyday boring security stuff. That's Rose SecOps again. Rose ROSE, Sec SEC, Ops OPS. If you want to learn about ferrets and hacker ferrets or ferret security, you can follow me at Ferret SecOps. Well, follow my ferrets, obviously.
Amazing. I'm Trisha Kicks Sass. So Trisha Kicks, KICKS SAAS, as in security as a service.
Cool. And I'm Justin Warren. You can find me on Twitter as @JPWarren. All right.
And of course, you can find me at Mr. Anthropology, MR Anthropology. Probably not a lot of security tweets, I'm not going to lie, but that's okay. But thank you for listening to the On-Premise IT Roundtable. We really appreciate your time while you're sheltering in place. If you're listening to this, perhaps in a more externally allowable time. Maybe you're listening to this in the future. If you enjoyed this discussion, remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show in iTunes. That really helps our visibility. And share the show with more people. Share the love. We always appreciate that. This podcast is brought to you by GestaltIT.com, your home for IT coverage from across the enterprise. Remember, for show notes about this episode, go to GestaltIT.com/podcast. Thanks. We'll see you next time. And remember, have a super sparkly day.